This next topic that we're getting ready to jump into about organization is one that a lot of homeschoolers struggle with. Everyone comes with what their view of organization is when they start homeschooling. We all view it differently. Sometimes there's an obsession to it. Sometimes there's an indifference to it. And what I want to share with you is not just my personal experience, but things that have worked for other homeschoolers too. And I've broken the topics down into several different topics so that if there's an area that you need help in, you can immediately look at that. Of course, I encourage you to view all of them, but I want to give you this bird's eye view again, these ideas that I know that will work. And overcoming organizational hurdles really starts with you. And it starts with your definition of what is organization. Organization is an area that I love. Organization, I've realized, comes naturally for some people, and for others it doesn't. So what I want to share with you is everything to make it easier for you. I don't held to the thinking that you don't have to be organized, because you need to have some measure of organization when you homeschool. I know I've read that in the homeschool world, and I'm just like, really? That's not true. Anything with a purpose has to have a plan. But, here's the big but. Our definition of organization has to be adjusted. There are thousands of books about organization, blogs, resources. People have tried for years to be organized. But here's what you need to remember. Organization in the homeschool world is different than it is the rest of the world. If you start your homeschool journey judging by the rest of the world's standard that doesn't share living and learning spaces, it will be tough. We can't do that. Now, with that being said, I need to share something and confess here, okay? Because I always want you to understand where I'm coming from, and I want to be transparent, okay? Organization is something that comes to me naturally. Now, you would think, and why am I telling you this? You would think that would be easy, but it's not. It's not, and this is why. Because I can fall on the spectrum of being obsessed. So what I had to learn was to accept certain ways that things were done if I wanted to get other things done in the day. But I see that strength as a way to be able to help you, because I can dive into the different facets, whether it's grocery shopping, cleaning, laundry. I can give you a solution for those to tame it. You have to have a plan this first or second year, otherwise it will consume you. We don't want to give up feeding our kids and our husband because we did school all day. Oh, it's cereal again. Okay, but I do like cereal. But we don't have to do that. How can we do it simply? That's what I'm going to share. That's what I want you to learn from this module. But it first starts with adopting a different view of organization. And it also starts with not adopting a negative view of organization. You know, sometimes people say organize, agonize. We start off that way, and it may be. But organization has been a lifesaver for me through the years. That is where my 7-step homeschool planner was formed, from saying, you know what? I'm not going to step in sync and make me and my circumstances with my children fit a planner. I'm going to design a system that fits me. Do you know that's what organization is? Organization is simply a system that works for you and your family, no matter how wonky, you know I love that word, no matter how wonky it sounds to other people. Now, don't make this mistake. Here's another mistake that people that aren't organized can tend to do, and they'll think they're organized, and that is over-organize. They complicate it. By the time a person finishes explaining their system, my head's spinning. I'm like, I can't do all that. There's just no way I can do all that. It's crazy. I have to do other things in the day, like breathe, because they have this system that's so, I'm like, so organized, you're like, there's no room to be relaxed. There's no room to enjoy life. That's another mistake of homeschoolers. They think being organized now is we're going to just account for every minute in our day. And who can live their life like that? They can't. The most successful organized homeschoolers have simple systems, simple things in place, not overcomplicated. The other secret to being organized, here's the other secret. They're the best communicators. What do you mean? What do I mean by that? Well, I hear moms say, my kids don't follow my plan. Do you have a plan? Did you communicate the plan? Is the plan still here? If the plan is only here but doesn't come out here, or they can't see it, how can we ask them if they're not following a plan if there is no plan? See, our kids will model us. They learn from us. We want them to learn how to organize in a simple way, to accept organization in our homeschool world, not to be measured by all the organizational blogs that don't live our life, that don't have their kids underfoot 24/7. So that's the second secret, easy for you to say, second secret tip. Communicate. Now, when I mean communicate, what do I mean? Well, you can tell kids verbally, but what's been your experience? Do kids really remember that? No, they don't. Now, we've had all kinds of apps and devices that come into this digital world, and I love them all. But what I have found in the beginning years, the best way to communicate to my family was a visual reminder. Have you taken time to put your schedule in a place that your kids can see every day? They don't know what your expectations are. They can't have expectations if you don't communicate it to them. An organized person is a communicator. They are. And they have a simple system. They work within what they have available to them. They don't try to make their family step in sync to something that's like, there's no way we can do this. Let me give you an example of this. Recently, I did some work with a person online. And her strength, she touted, was being organized. But the platform she wanted to use for communicating was so complex. It took us longer to learn the platform. Not even when we learned it would it even take a short time. And I said, isn't there just any way we can shoot an email to each other? I mean, you would have liked to have thought I offended her with the way she acted because I didn't want to collaborate with this complicated system she had. Oh, but she thought she was organized. But guess what? She was going to be the only one organized because no one else could follow her system. See, that's the key. You can be organized, but unless the system is simple and clear and visual, and you've communicated it to who you want to follow you, it's just going to stay up here. That's the key. That's why these first couple of years, You have to take time to find a system for you. Now, if everybody's using apps and they want to use Cozy, I know some families use that because all the devices can be attached to it. That's great. They can text him, it's on there, but you're assuming they're going to pick the phone up and actually look about what's coming up. Maybe they do. Maybe you have kids that age. For me, that never worked. What worked was something visually up all the time on my wall or in my schoolroom until we got used to the schedule. There does come a time when your kids will say, Mom, time to get started. And you're like, okay, because they're so in tune with what the plan is. Okay, so there's a few tips. Kind of think about that. So your definition of what is organization affects how much of an organized person you can be. Simple, systems, and a communicator. That's what you want to do this first year. All right, I'm going to break down the different areas too of organization. So it will vary by family. There was one, the organization system will vary by family. There is one phrase I remember reading many, many years ago that really puts all of us on equal footing. Whether you don't really feel very organized and you feel overwhelmed because you have a lot of kids, or whether you feel like I've got this, there was one phrase that I read that said, organization is not a disease. It's a decision. It's a decision. That puts all of us on equal footing. Yes, it has some to do with willpower and the ability to stick, but we only can stick if we can do it and it's realistic. But when I read that phrase, I thought, you know what? That is beautiful, because people that are naturally organized, they say, you know what? This is a decision. I'm going to keep it simple. I want my life to be stress-free, clutter-free. And contrary to what a lot of people think, organized people do lead a lot more stress-free life, clutter-free. They've taken time to get stuff out of their mind and onto paper. Now, I know you probably think, oh, what is she talking about? We're in this digital world. But I'm here to tell you I've used so many digital things, and I like them. I'm not discouraging you from using those. As long as you can get it out of your mind and onto something, that's clutter-free. Does that make sense? That's also what makes a person unorganized. They think they can keep it all here. You can't keep it all here. That's why I've encouraged you to journal, have a lesson planner, have a home management binder, recipes, get it out of here and make a system out of it. This is clutter-free. Then you have your tools. You just pick them all up, what you need. So it's a decision. You can be organized this first and second year. You can. Now, let me give you the balance of this for persons that are organized, because I don't want them to get the wrong impression here thinking that I'm talking about we're just going to live with a messy house. When I started homeschooling, I had a lot of people tell me, I'm just going to have to learn to step over it and the piles of laundry. I tried. I'm telling you, I tried. But guess what? I couldn't. It's paralyzing to me. Other moms that were more relaxed, they're like, I don't understand that. I can start the day. I couldn't. I didn't have to have it spotless, but I had to smell some cleaning products somewhere. I had to have something straightened and organized before I started. So what I'm telling you is you don't have to abandon, and you don't want to abandon the way you are, because you're the one teaching. You are the backbone of the family. You're the one starting this first year. Everything falls on your shoulders. So don't give up completely how you are. Make allowances. You might need to change and bend, maybe if you're obsessive, because there's only so much time in the day. And remember, I said we want to give homeschooling first in our day, not cleaning. Now, we can do cleaning when we take a break. But if the night before our house is prepped for the next morning, we can have a clutter-free morning. So sometimes what the change is, and this was my case, it's when I did it. When I had to give that up. Like I had an all-day laundry day. I gave up my all-day laundry day. And it was okay just to have small piles in my laundry room. It was fine because I had what was important to me done. I compromised because I had an all-day laundry day. If I did laundry all day long, that's all I'd get done for the day. Now I had to accept, you know what? I'm going to do laundry at these specific times. We're going to talk about that too. So I had to give up when I did it, not giving it up. Does that make sense? So if you are a person that thrives in structure and you say, yeah, I know what you're talking about, I need that, don't give it up. Bend and change and find when you can do it. Okay, in this module, one of the downloads I have, and I want you to take time to do this, is tracking your week. This goes back to you thinking, this is the time we get up and this is what we do, but is it really? And the reason I want you to track your week is because it's going to help us to create a school schedule, a schedule for your family. Not my family, not someone else's family, your family. And the way it starts we start to do that is to track actually when are we getting up. This isn't for anybody to see. This is for you and for me to help you. And there's no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. Everyone's life is different. What we want to do is find out where our time is to schedule. What are we doing at these specific times? Just write down the time you get up, what time you're reading, if you did some laundry, when you watch TV, when you spent time with the hubs. Just, when did you spend time with the mister? I mean, did you make time for your parents? Did you make time for siblings? Did you have any me time in there? When did you actually start supper? And you can say, well, we always eat around this time. But when you look, you actually see maybe that you ate earlier or later. Again, this is just for you to track, because when you have it in front of you and you track about a week, you can track longer, but a week is good. Then when I'm asking you questions, you can say, well, yeah, this is about generally the time we're getting up. Sometimes you may need to adjust to allow for homeschool. Then we can say, well, maybe we need to get up a little bit earlier, or let's start school right away. Okay, or let's put the cleaning here, the laundry here, and this type of thing. Okay, but you don't know any of that until you track your habits. That's the first place to start. The first place to start is not creating a schedule and then making the family bend to that. It goes back to that example I was talking about of the girl that found a system and said, you know what, we're all going to do this. And I thought, that's crazy. It takes too long. Just email me. How simple is that? That's organization. Simplicity. Simplicity is organization. So that's what I want you to do. Track your week. And from there, we're going to make a schedule. Okay. The other thing that I want you to think about and to list are things that you have to do each week. And I do have a form for that too. And you may find from your week, you can even color code it if you want to, that you're taking care of bills, you're working here, color code it if you want to when you're tracking your week. But I even have a form there where you can track, this is the time I spent with husband. This is the time I did for co-ops. This is the time I did lighthouse cleaning. This is the time that I had to myself. This is the time that we took for field trips. Just fit it all in there so that we can have a starting point to create a schedule that bends to your family, not the other way around. Here's another example. I've helped a lot of homeschoolers, like I said, through the years get organized. And I remember one mom had hired me to come in and set up her schoolroom. Well, when I went over to her house to help set up her schoolroom, you have never seen so many pretty organizational bins and buckets and baskets in your life than she had bought already. I mean, they were beautiful. They were gorgeous. But she was so excited about it, she went out and bought all of them. Spent a lot of money. But I came over simply to measure the room, to start with measurement. That probably wasn't so fun to her. She thought she was going to be all organized, so she jumped and ran and got a bucket and came back and then tries to put it in her space to see if it will fit. Well, she doesn't even know her needs. That's what organization is. It's rolling our sleeves up and saying, okay, now we're going to get down with this and we're going to figure out, what do I need? Don't go run and buy stuff before you know what you're going to need. It's the same organization applies to the same thing I've been telling you now. Let me tie this point together, which is why I said don't go spend thousands of dollars on curriculum. Start with something budget friendly until you figure out what your needs are. It's the same rule here. Don't jump and buy a lot of things until you figure out what are your needs. She had to return half of those beautiful buckets and bins and shelves because they didn't fit her area. And on top of that, that wasn't the needs of her children for that year. So start first with what are your needs. That's why you want to track the week. That's why you want to write down, what do I need? What are the ages of my children? What type of area do I have that we're going to be learning in? And we're going to talk some more about this too, but I want to bring up something else too, because when I first started, I had a lot of homeschoolers tell me, you'll never use a homeschool room, that we can't separate living and learning, and we're learning 24/7. And guess what? I agreed totally with all of that. I'm 100% in line with all of that. But one thing that did not work for me was not having a room when I first started. And probably a lot of it had to do with my kids' age. Not probably, it did. See, they had already had middle school kids and high school kids. They were writing, they were reading. I had to teach my kids to write and read. We had to have tables and desks that were height appropriate so they could have good posture and their hands could be at the right height. There's no way they could learn to write just sitting on their feet all bunched up and have beautiful handwriting and expect that when they're laying on the couch. On top of that, I embraced the kind of person I was, which is I contain clutter. I have organized spaces for clutter. I don't want that stuff all over my house. Yes, there was lots of stuff all over my house still, but I wanted to know when I went to find something, it was in one spot. I don't want to buy a book 3 times because I don't know that I have it in my library. So it's not all over everywhere. And because my kids were young, I wanted them to have the habit of starting the day on time. We went to our school area. Part of the day, our formal part of the day was there, writing, math. We did at the height appropriate tables. Then we came out to the kitchen. We did our science. Then we went to the living room and we curled up with a blanket and we read and we did arts and crafts. We did some history and science. That was the best ever for my circumstances, to have a room and a relaxed area. Some people, don't get me wrong, don't have the room for it. I've even had a homeschool journey where we lived 5 of us in an 800 square foot cabin. So I didn't have a room per se. I had to do other things. Sometimes we just don't have the choice. We wished we'd have a school room, but we don't have a choice. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks for that too. The bottom line I'm trying to say in all this, whether you have a school room or you don't, is set it up for you. Don't just dismiss. If you're an organized person, then find an area, even if it's just a small, tiny area, nook and cranny in your house that you can say, you know what, I have this organized. Even if it's underneath the bed. You know, you pull something out and you have the containers. Okay, this is organized. Find an area. You want some way to keep all of the clutter corralled somehow. So it's just not strewn everywhere and then you're just like, where is it at? Okay, if you're that kind of person, if that doesn't bother you, then you'll be able to be more relaxed about it. But if it bothers you, then address it. Okay, and like I said, we're going to talk some more about that too. Oh, excuse me, beg your pardon. Okay, so I want to share those things with you. Don't over organize, and be sure that you put in everything that you need to organize for the week down on your list. Also, remember, think about anyone else's schedule that affects yours. Do you, if you're not single, is your husband's schedule affect yours? I mean, does he work shift work? Does he have off during the middle of the week? You don't want to say, okay, you know, he has off during the middle of the week. We're going to school. We don't care if dad has off. Can you switch it around and school on the weekend and trade one of those days so the kids can enjoy seeing dad? Okay, so think about those things. I want you to write down everything that makes your life different. We want to adjust the schedule to your family's unique rhythm, not create a schedule and then tell all the kids, here, we're going to follow it. You're going to create it simply, and then number 2, you're going to communicate it. Create it, communicate it. And we'll talk more about how to do that too, okay? So I'm excited about getting into this module about organization.